Government says it will go ahead to implement its much talked about free SHS initiative this September, despite concerns the economy may not be able to sustain it. At a news conference on Thursday, the Education Minister stated over 300,000 students who wrote this year's Basic Education Certificate examination are set to benefit from the policy in the next few weeks. Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, however, explained candidates would have to first pass their exam and gain entry before they can benefit.
At the Meet the Press series in Accra, Sector Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh said any Ghanaian who passes the BECE and is placed by the computer placement system will benefit.
Who qualifies? You have to be a Ghanaian, of course. You have to write the current year's BECE too. You have to pass the BECE, and you have to be placed by the computer school placement system and accept to be placed in the public school, and you also accept to enroll in that public school. If I put you in a school and you say you won't go, no scholarship will be offered to anybody, and the person says, I won't go to where I'll be offered a scholarship, and the scholarship will be maintained. Free SHS is for 3 years, because secondary school is for 3 years. If you go there and you fail, you don't work hard, you won't get the free SHS scholarship for your 4th year. It will start in this year's academic year, 2017-2018 entrance.
He also dismissed comments that the economy may not be in the best of positions for the implementation this year.
Years that we tout as our best years are not good enough. We have to have a sustained development for a period more than maybe a 7 to 8% growth rate for over 7 to 10 years before we start leveling up. So Ghana has not been the best of economies since independence. But we have had one way or the other free secondary school in one form or the other since independence. For those who don't believe or who say we should wait, anybody till date who has any information that the president hasn't gotten about the economy, anybody who has any country view that the money that has been appropriated by the Parliament of Ghana is not enough, can as well submit it to the president or us, and we will take due cognizance of it. But free SHS is happening in September 2017.
One major issue, though, is how government will fund the program. Dr. Opoku Prempeh said the World Bank is also considering giving out $40 million to support the initiative, aside the 400 million cedis government has allocated for the 2017-2018 academic year. He also said government will construct 42 model schools to expand infrastructure for the program.
We realized that the 56 model schools that were constructed previously all happened to be part of the category 3 or grade A schools under the Ghana Education Service. So schools like Chemu, Odogono, my own Anglican secondary school, Drobo Secondary School, now people flock to those places like never before. Why? Because facilities were provided for the schools. So we are going to re-embark on the 42 districts without such model schools as centers of excellence in those districts, so that children will not have to move much elsewhere. The problem is that some schools are failing and failing so badly that nobody wants to go there. So we have to rehabilitate those schools, and thanks to the World Bank, we are undergoing a project called Secondary Education Improvement Project, where they are helping to develop some schools, helping the teachers and the lecturers, putting the science teachers also to task and training and building their capacity. So it's a total package.
The Education Minister assured that government has done enough to ensure quality is not compromised.
We intend to alter the instructional time. Yesterday, I had the privilege of inaugurating the National Council for Curriculum Assessment, whose mandate is to come up with timetables and instructional time. That to alter our timetables to take care of the fact that we don't start school early for the first years and we finish too early for the final years. Instructional time, instead of schools probably closing at 2, we are engaging the NACA. Why should school close at 2, not 4:30? So we will come out with ways in which to make up the time lost.
The free SHS is a key campaign promise during the 2016 election by the then opposition New Patriotic Party.
Kofi Bentil is Vice President of Policy Think Tank Imani Ghana. He joins me for some analysis on this free SHS policy and the news conference that was addressed today by the Minister. Good evening to you, Mr. Bentil. Hello, Mr. Bentil. If you can hear me, good evening to you.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Now,
right.
The President had indicated that we should wait for this news conference, which was supposed to address all the issues having to do with the free SHS. Have all your questions been answered as far as this policy is concerned?
Well, not exactly. But I may have a few more questions than the average person because we've done quite a bit of work on this and we would have liked some, details to be provided.
All right,
which may not be necessary for, everybody, at large. I worry, however, that the President said that this press conference was going to answer all questions. No press conference answers all the questions for such a major policy. So what we keep saying is that there must be a proper major government paper released on this free SHS program so we know end to end what the government's plan is. And the trickling of information is a bit worrying to us. And sometimes the information even sounds, counter to, one another. When you have somebody saying that, well, the economy can't take it, and then somebody comes back and says, no, we are going to go ahead. If you have information, tell somebody. So I worry about some of those things which really create some sort of doubt in the minds of people. Today I heard something about the free SHS scholarship on the 4th year or so. I'm not sure I got it well, but all the pieces of information coming through create a bit of a confusion. I would prefer that there is a major paper published on this so we all know exactly how this program is going to run.
All right, so let's look at what you suggested had to do with whether the economy could take it. Apparently, it was Dr. Adokufo, the former defense minister, who is a member of the New Patriotic Party. He's not exactly in government, so I don't know why you would suggest that what he said runs contrary to the policy.
I was making the point that you have a very senior person like Dr. Adokufo, who is in the MPP and clearly not against this policy, expressing a concern. Okay, and I'm saying that these pieces of information, when they come out, they are not government information per se, but they create some sort of doubt or they create some sort of, confusion in the public. So I would prefer that Dr. Adokufo would have read a certain paper and knows clearly where the funding for this policy is going to come from, because I have no doubt that there's a political will to do this. And I have no doubt that it is not going to be based on the strength of our economy. I believe that it's a good enough policy, and if the government is minded to do it, it will find the money from somewhere to do it. And indeed, Nana Addo actually made that promise that he will find the money. So it is not about the economy, but the point is that when you hear all kinds of, things being said about it, whether from within government or from around government, it creates a certain problem. And I wish that there will be a paper published on how this is going to run over the 4 years. The thing about day students and boarding students, now it's been clarified that the day students will get a meal a day. It still does not remove some of the equity problem, between day and boarding students. Because if you are in boarding school, there are many advantages as against being in day school. And I think that there's also going to be this run on the schools. Everybody's going to look for boarding schools. A couple of things that are going to come in. Vocational education, technical education, we are not clear about all those things. It will be very nice if a major policy like this is treated, with a lot of attention, and the paper released on it so that we all know and sing from the same hymn book.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kofi Bentil. Kofi Bentil is a private legal practitioner, but he's also vice president of policy think tank Imani Ghana. And moving on, the minority in Parliament is threatening to revolt against Speaker Professor Michael Quaye over what it describes as unfair treatment. The MPs have accused the Speaker of stifling their efforts to hold government accountable. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has details.
At Thursday's sitting, the minority was unhappy that the Speaker did not allow its leader, Haruna Iddrisu, to ask the Agric Minister more than one question when he appeared before the House.
Minority Chief Whip, are you opposed to...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, I kept Sunday, you couldn't catch
Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable
it is important that the Speaker respects the front bench of the minority. Why do you want to couple us? You have to give us space to be able to put our views. Mr. Speaker, you cannot stifle the space for the minority leadership. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the day before yesterday, there were questions that were supposed to be asked yesterday in this House. They were not on the other paper. You didn't give us the opportunity to raise them. Yesterday, we advertised. There were questions to be asked today again. They've not been put on the other paper. You are not giving us the opportunity to even air our views. Why? No, we raise it at the leadership meeting. Why? If you don't want us, we want us. So that you take the house. If you don't want us to be here, if the speaker thinks we should not be here to air our views and concerns of our side, we will be ready to walk out so that you can't have a business with only the majority. Why?
Honorable Majority Leader. Honorable Majority Leader. Honorable Order. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, when I rose, you know the essence of parliamentary question is significant and integral to the exercise of oversight. Your refusal to allow me, even as minority leader, to proceed can only be an effort to stifle oversight. But you did. You did.
Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak tells Joy News they will take on the speaker unless he changes his ways.
Say, when the minority, we have the numbers, say, may God forbid, let's not get there, that we use our number to say that we are starting the process of impeaching the speaker. These are bad things to all of us.
Is that something you are considering, getting the speaker impeached and starting the processes to that effect?
We really don't wish to get there. That's why we are sending the notice to Mr. Speaker, that with the greater respect, he should be mindful of Article 296 of the Constitution. That says that any time a discretion is given you, that discretion should be used in a manner that do not undermine others. We hope that he will take these lessons and at least help to create cordiality in the House.
Addressing the media later at Parliament House, Majority Leader Oseichi Mensah-Bonsu warned the minority members their actions could amount to contempt of Parliament.
The following acts or conduct shall constitute a breach of privilege or contempt of Parliament. And C provides flagrant, persistent, or willful disobedience of the general rules or orders of the House. So if you're a leader and you are doing that, you know you can be cited for contempt. And yet, because we want to be very consensual, I decided not to raise this matter. These matters that are related to, because I didn't want to poison the atmosphere all the more.
For Joy News, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo reporting.
Watching Joy News Prime, still ahead in the bulletin, the Agriculture Minister is claiming victory over rampaging armyworms, blamed for destruction to farms across the country.
I would like to take this opportunity, if you may allow me, to assure the nation that the fall armyworm invasion has been defeated.
We have all of them more coming up. Stay tuned. The Agric Minister, Dr. Akoto Osei-Afriyie, is claiming victory in the war against fall armyworms who have caused massive destruction to farmlands across the country. He told Parliament the pests have been defeated and that the extent of destruction has been exaggerated. The minister also assured the pests will not affect government's Planting for Food and Jobs program.
I would like to take this opportunity, if you may allow me, to assure the nation that the fall armyworm invasion has been defeated by my government, totally defeated. The impression which has been created by some people that the armyworm is consuming planting for food and jobs, Mr. Speaker, is not correct. It's wrong. This is why we are in anticipation of the surpluses that we are expecting. We are making frantic efforts in order that we will store and make sure that not one single bean or one single grain is lost at the farm gate because of lack of markets. But Mr. Speaker, I want to give the honourable member some statistics to prove what we are saying, if I may. The total area affected by the armyworm came to 112,812 hectares were affected. The Speaker, were affected. There's a difference between affected and destroyed. And that is why a lot of people get confused. The total number which was destroyed was only 14,430 hectares. Only because it does not even form 2% of the total area under maize alone. Never mind the total area under all crops in Ghana. So there's a huge exaggeration of the possible impact of the armyworm. And my experts, Mr. Speaker, my experts at the ministry, and I believe they are some of the best in the world, are very sure that the armyworm is under total control. And the only challenge that we have is to ensure that next year, this 112,000 hectares will be reduced to 0. And we are going to make sure that between now and next year, we annihilate this armyworm from the source of Ghana.
Well, for some reaction to the minister's claims, we have been joined by the Programs Officer of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Charles Nyaba. Good evening to you, Mr. Nyaba, and thanks for making time to join us. You just returned from a tour of some of the affected areas, and as you heard the minister say, the armyworm invasion has been totally defeated. What have you been able to establish on the ground?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. Just like I indicated earlier on, I started a one-week journey, starting from Brown Afri area, which was the most infested region among all the 10 regions. We went to Northern region and Upper East region. Yes, it's true that the extent of spread has reduced drastically, but I'm not able to establish whether that is as a result of the task force that was set by the minister, as he said, because the farmers I spoke to said that when the rains set in, they realized that anytime it rains heavily, then the rains wash away the worms, and then the level of spread also keeps reducing. Now, it must also be made clear that most of farmers that we spoke to have not received the pesticide. And those who received, majority also stated that they were not that effective. So they resorted to the use of biological means of control and then using detergents like SoClean and then other material to prevent it. So that is what I can establish. But I think in going forward, we shouldn't just praise ourselves that we've been able to control it, because a damage has already been caused. So what measures do we put in place so that in coming years we don't experience the same thing? This year, the focus has been to provide farmers with pesticides. Now, we have spoken to a number of environmentalists and researchers who are expressing fear of the level of chemicals that we pump into the soil, which may have consequences on the food and then the environment itself. So we should be thinking of coming now with another means of controlling the worms.
Okay. Now, the minister also indicated that the spread has been exaggerated, or the impact of the armyworm invasion has been exaggerated. He says 112,000 hectares have been affected, but only 14,000 has been destroyed. Is that something you agree?
You know, because the point is that if it's exaggerated, then I think the figures are coming from them. We rely on the figures that they have put on there. But earlier on, as we indicated, we thought that those figures were underestimated because there were a number of communities that were infested and those farms were not captured.
All right.
So if you say the figures are exaggerated, we are not even talking about those communities that were not captured. But we rely on the figures that they themselves provided because the Deputy Minister was in Parliament and he stated that 112,000 hectares were infested, which is not small number.
All right. So it's true. They stand by the 112,000 hectares affected, but they said it does not mean that all 112,000 have been destroyed.
No. Based on their own figures, they are saying that 14,000 were completely destroyed.
Yes.
You can go back and play the tape.
That yes, they confirm that 14,000 have been destroyed.
Yeah, were completely destroyed. That's why we are saying that figure, we have not done any research to dispute that figure.
But you find that alarming?
Yeah, that is a lot. Even if you know a hectare, even 1,000 hectares is a lot. For us to lose 14,000, that is alarming. And it's something that we should not just praise ourselves and think that the damage is small.
Okay.
So my fear is not even this year, because last year just a few communities were infested, and only 6 regions. This year, all the 10 regions. So what will happen next year? Because the rains came to control the extent of spread. What measures are we putting in place so that next year we don't experience what we experienced this year? I think we need to bring our researchers on board, because this year we left them completely out. It's one of the reasons why the control was not that effective. And I also think that we shouldn't rely so much on chemicals, because that will not help us.
Okay, thank you very much. Charles Nyaba is with the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has resumed operations at Somanya in the Eastern region after it shut down some 2 months ago following vandalization of its offices. The ECG offices have remained shut after some residents, citing anomalies on the electricity bills, attacked the offices. Though the threats to the company's operations in the town are yet to be eliminated, ECG says it is going ahead to fully restore customer services in the Yilo Krobo district. Joy News' Matilda Vamegan has more in the following report.
It's exactly 2 months since some angry youth of Yilo Krobo demonstrated against the Electricity Company of Ghana. The angry youth besieged the ECG offices, vandalizing properties as well as burning of vehicles belonging to the police. This led to the arrest of some of the youth, who were later granted bail. The ECG workers stayed away from their offices following threats over their lives. The Yilo Krobo Traditional Council, as well as the ECG, has held a series of meetings to resolve the impasse. A joint communique has been issued by both parties outlining the measures they intend to take. The acting corner of Yilo Krobo Traditional Area, Osayem Tete Odonko Tume I, condemned the actions of the youth.
Electricity Company of Ghana, too, have to take care of their cost level and not assume that because they are a monopoly in the way they can slap on any level of bills at any time. These are some of the fundamental problems which are causing the, fracas between the customer and the service provider.
Some youth in Krobo are, however, unhappy with the current billing system.
We are not happy for this thing, what happened today. Madam, listen to me well. This what they are saying. We people as a Krobo voice, we wrote a resolution.
So what exactly do you want?
We want the ECG, the 2 years overbilling and accommodation of the billing and unnecessary removing meters. The meters, they sold it to us. It's our Bonaparte property. So they don't have power to come and review the meters. So they should bring our meters and to abolish the old bills and bring us a new bill.
The ECG is saying that these issues you are talking about, they are saying their offices are open.
This ECG in Lower Manya and Yilo, we are disappointed in them. Because these people, when you go there, we are here for our money. So if you bring the money, pay. If you didn't pay, take. Then they throw your paper away. So today they are come to do it.
Managing Director of ECG, Engineer Samuel Boachib Apia, who led a delegation from Accra to Somanya, says ECG has put in place a complaint resolution procedure.
You cannot just say that you have been overbilled. How do I determine that you have been overbilled? It is when I examine your bill, interrogate our system, look at your consumption record, and in fact, there are various processes involved. We have put in a mechanism to address everybody's, concern or grievance. So when they they come to our offices, whatever issue that they have will be addressed by our staff who have been prepared just for that.
Meanwhile, the police in the area say they have intensified the operations, which include day and night patrols, as well as providing 24-hour security at all ECG offices in the area.
We have intensified patrols, both day and night. We have men on the grounds who are doing the foot patrols. The premises have been protected by the police 24/7. We are there every day, day and night. Those workers in town, we assure them that we are there to protect them, so they should go about their duty without anything. The police is there to protect them. They give to us police, we are doing our work. If you commit crime, you go contrary the rules, you are arrested and prosecuted.
The Electricity Company of Ghana is expected to embark on a massive public education campaign in the area. For Joy News, Matilda Humaga, Somanya, Eastern Region.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for Yilo Krobo, Magnus Kofi Amoate, has expressed disappointment at the conduct of protesting residents. He says leadership of the various groups were involved in meetings with stakeholders, hence suggestions that the youth were sidelined is inaccurate.
I believe the only avenue to resolve the issue is the issue of public education. And the community said it, that they are going to host series of public education programs to address their concerns. In fact, they are expecting us to address individual concerns, and we cannot address individual concerns in a forum like this. They are expecting that ECG will announce that we have cancelled all bills, outstanding bills.
Exactly, that's what they are demanding.
It's not feasible, is it? It's not feasible. Then it means you are telling them that everything they did over the years was wrong. You had meters. Meters were read. We are alleging that we have been overbilled. Now, ECG is saying, fine, I've listened to your plea. I have opened a desk. Everybody who is aggrieved, come with your bill. We will examine your bill. They have printed bills for the last, they call it the 13-month cycle. Come with your bill, we'll go through your 13-month cycle. If there is a problem with it, we'll resolve it. If it is confirmed that truly you owe that amount of money, they are not going to insist that pay immediately before we restore power to you. They will give you a time frame. Pay your outstanding bills together with the current bill over a period to clear the difference. I think it is public education that will have to go down.
How do you...
Right, so that South Korean group, the Gracia Squad, is in town again to perform. We caught up with them rehearsing. All right, and we seem to have also found their key to their Ghanaian identity. We have all that coming up for you on the Bulletin station.
Hello again, good evening to you, and it's time for business. The country is instituting some measures to lessen the expected impact on the economy if Ghana should lose the boundary dispute with the Ivory Coast. The proposed initiatives, Joy Business Understands, has been discussed with government and the international oil exploration firms in the disputed area. George Wiafe has more.
We expect the coming on of 10 into the production stream.
The proposed measures would look at drilling more wells or even deeper in the current areas that the oil exploration firms are working. This will result in more investments from these firms. There are even proposals to extend some tax breaks to ensure that they secure the required capital from their partners to aid this move. The firms working on the 10th area have been forced to halt fresh drillings as a result of the current maritime dispute between Ghana and Ivory Coast. Tullow yesterday disclosed that it will start working on fresh 13 oil wells if the ruling should go in Ghana's favor. It is currently working to purchase a new oil rig for this move. Analysts have projected that the country could lose more than $3 billion in revenue if Ghana should lose this case. The German-based UN tribunal is expected to give its ruling on this dispute in September.
Now, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has dismissed significant threats to the environment as a result of flaring of gas on Ghana's offshore oil fields. The 2016 annual PIAC report revealed that approximately 72% of gas was flared on the 10 field in 2016 as a result of petroleum activities, raising some concerns the situation may be injurious to the environment and pose increased risks to the health of host communities. But speaking to Joy Business, Chief Program Officer in charge of oil and gas at the EPA, Kojo Agbenu Efunam, stated the amount of gas being flared currently are not dangerous.
We expect the coming on of 10 into the production stream. We expect that there should be an increase in the quantity of gas flared. Jubilee, because of the challenges that we had with the FPSO, the turret problem, made some of the operational challenges very critical for the company. They had to shut down, and sometimes too, because of those maintenance work that they needed to do, they had to shut down a lot of those facilities. And that will also give rise to the flaring. And also, they had a challenge also on the flare burner, which they had to redo. And then after doing that, they will have to test it. So all those things will accumulate in the amount that we see. And that is what we are saying.
I do think that these very reasons that you have encapsulated right now are justifiable enough for us to risk the environment to this extent.
No, so much. That's why I said the overall strategy. Our concern is so much about the overall strategy. But environmentally, the gas that we have, normally, when you are looking at the environmental concern of the flaring, you look at the gas that is being flared. When you have a sour gas, that is gas that contains certain amount of pollutants, like you have nitrogen dioxide and sulfur, it is then that you get worried about the flaring. But what we have is sweet gas, which has very minimal, or even in case of sulfur, no sulfur at all. So the amount of gas that you're flaring, those pollutants are not so much going into the environment. But our concern is not so much on the environmental aspect, it's about the resource. Somebody may ask, why should the EPA be interested in the resource being flared? Apart from we controlling pollution, environmental management has to do with also how we are using our resources. So if we have a resource, which is gas, that could be used in generating power for us, and some other things which we can get. And for one reason or the other, that gas is not being used for that purpose, but it is going into just flare, then you have concern about resource use, not so much about pollution of the atmosphere.
Away from that, economic policy think tank Institute for Fiscal Studies, IFS, has commended government on how it has managed the economy in the first 5 months of this year. Government managed to spend a little but bit less than what was projected in the 2017 budget. However, the challenge was the inability to meet the revenues targets, which was 17% less than projected. Speaking to Joy Business after a news conference to assess government's performance, Director of IFS, Professor Newman Kusi, said the situation could have been avoided if government was measured with revenue targets.
The revenue target was not able to, achieve. As a result, the government was forced to cut down expenditure so that it will remain in the deficit.
Do you think that the revenue targets were kind of ambitious, and that is why
we have said that already? We said that when the budget was tabled and we reviewed it, that was one of the huge things that we raised. That look, how can you increase, in 1 year, given the rate at which the economy is growing, revenue from 33 billion to 45 billion in 1 year when the economy is not growing, at higher rate? We said that it was, overly ambitious, and this is what we are seeing now. And on the revenue side, other than the need to, strongly enhance domestic revenue administration, which is the collection and accounting for government revenue, plugging down the leakages, and strengthening the Ghana Revenue Authority, making sure that all these, under declaration of imports and exports and all those things are clamped down. In other words, increasing the revenue administration. We also have to ensure that the economy the growth of the economy is high, because everything, from the tax side depends on what economic agents generate, the activities and transactions and all those things. Those are the things that are taxed. But if the economy is not growing, what are you going to tax to be able to raise the revenue?
Would you propose some expenditure cuts going forward? I mean, there would be, the economists would say, all other things being equal, there would be a mid-year review on Monday. Would you propose some drastic expenditure cuts to help manage the situation?
Well, you see, I think it's going to be very difficult to physically cut certain expenditures. I think what we need to do is to strongly try to improve the management of the expenditure and try to improve the fiscal, the financial management, to reduce or completely, eradicate irregular spending.
The managing director of ADB, Daniel Asiedu, is stepping down as boss of the bank. The decision has been influenced by government's decision to nominate a new managing director for the bank, Dr. John Kofi Mensah. Mr. Asiedu, in a memo, communicated to the staff of the ADB Bank about his intention to move, having served in this position for just 1 year, 5 months. Before joining the bank, he was with Zenith Bank as MD for 6 years. Meanwhile, the incoming MD of ADB, Dr. John Mensah, is expected to formally assume office next Monday. And that's it for Business Tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good evening.
Welcome back to Joy News Prime. The police has arrested a 30-year-old man for his involvement in several car break-ins and theft of properties in the vehicles. The suspect, Daniel Deku, according to the police, was arrested in 2009 for a similar offense. He was tried and sentenced to 4 years imprisonment, only to be released to return to his old ways. The Accra Regional Police PRO, ASP Fiatenge, has been speaking about his activities.
The Accra Regional Police Command has arrested a 30-year-old Daniel Deku for his various involvement in car breaking crimes and property theft from vehicles. The brief facts are that the police yesterday, 26 July 2017, acting upon a tip-off, arrested the suspect in his hideouts at Botiano, a suburb of Accra. A search conducted on the suspect revealed assorted items including 30 ladies' handbags, 21 pairs of ladies' shoes, wrist watches, ATM cards, some of them bearing the name Justice Ichampon Freeman, 27 pair of spectacles, 8 bunches of car keys including Toyota, Nissan, Benz, Audi, and Infiniti, computer and their phone accessories, and also 13 pieces of power bank and 66 pen drives, assorted jewelries, diaries, with some of them dating as far back as 2014.
ASP Fiatenge outlined the modus operandi of these criminals and warned the general public to refrain from leaving valuables in their vehicles.
What modus do they usually employ? The suspects, Daniel Deku, he targets potential victims with vehicles, whether at drinking spots, parking lots that usually have less security systems, banking areas, among others. They ransack the car within the shortest possible time when it is parked or unattended to, either by breaking the windscreen or the car windows, or even using sophisticated implements to force the door opened. The police is, however, cautioning the public to desist from leaving monies and the valuables in their cars. And also, the public is advised not to display valuables in the full glare of passerbys, since such acts usually attract criminally minded persons. Motorists can install vehicle alarms in their cars to alert them of possible break-ins. Then again, people who have suffered this kind of attack in recent times should kindly also come to the regional police headquarters here to identify their valuables, and which will also help in the further prosecution of the suspects.
Now, the minority in Parliament has taken the controversial $2.25 billion bond issue to the Supreme Court, demanding its reversal. The suit filed Wednesday, the plaintiff to the case, Clement Park, who is acting in its capacity as a citizen of Ghana, said the bond ought to have been approved by Parliament but was not. He is therefore praying the court to, among other reliefs, declare the sale of the bond null and void. A former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has stated that Africa is not potentially poor, but resources are rather poorly managed. He estimated the population of Ghana to be 51 million and Nigeria to be 407 million by 2050, and asked how leaders will provide nutrition, shelter, education, and health services for its citizens. He challenged African leaders to face the problems and find solutions to them by tapping into other people's knowledge. President Obasanjo was speaking at the launch of a handbook on making Africa work.
Africa is not potentially poor. Africa is only poorly managed. Our resources are poorly managed. And as Greg put in one of his books, he said the situation or our poverty in Africa is the choice of our leaders. We could have made a different choice. And what we are saying in this book is that different choices can be made. And the time is now to make different choice. In less than 35 years from now, by the year 2050, Ghana will be more than 51 million, much more than what Nigeria was at independence. Nigeria will be 407 million. You imagine, how do we feed them? How do we provide shelter for them? How do we provide adequate education, healthcare delivery? How do we deal with the cities? The essence of our book is for us to have solutions. We can't run away from these problems.
On his part, guest speaker President Akufo-Addo noted that the issue of youth unemployment is no longer an economic issue, but security one as well. Outlining solutions to what he perceives to be the problems, President Akufo-Addo stated achievements he has chalked in his first 6 months as president.
The issue of youth unemployment is not only an economic issue, but has become a security issue, as we have seen from the Arab Spring, where youth unemployment and discontent provided the spark for the uprising in Tunisia. In Ghana, about 60% of the unemployed are in the 15 to 24 years age group. The interesting aspect of unemployment in Africa is that it is occurring within the context of underdevelopment, with so much work that needs to be done. Work in the areas of infrastructure, roads, railways, water transportation, housing, energy, agriculture, schools and hospitals, dams, etc., is needed for economic development. Skilled workers, such as teachers and nurses, doctors, engineers, accountants, planners, architects, chemists, plumbers, mechanics, carpenters, etc., are also in short supply relative to demand. Most African countries are endowed with great wealth in the form of natural resources such as oil, gas, gold, diamonds, timber, bauxite, iron ore, etc. This
Police in the northern region is attributing a sharp decline in the crime rate there to some measures it put in place to frustrate criminal activity. The regional command said robbery cases especially have dropped significantly in the last 4 months. Addressing a welfare meeting of personnel at the maiden visit of the Director General for the Northern Patrols Department to the region, Regional Police Commander ASP Patrick Edusei Sapong said the hitherto daily reports of highway attacks, especially on the Bolga-Walewale road, have ceased. He said 8 suspected armed robbers who have been terrorizing travelers and commuters on the Bole-Saula-Wa road have also been arrested.
Almost every day you hear of robbery, both domestic robbery and highway robbery. But as we all know, on our part of Northern Ghana where we are, unlike in the past, where especially on the road of Walewale to Bolga, there were almost every week we wanted to run robbery on the highway. Now for the past 3 or 4 months, we have never experienced any such of a robbery due to number of reasons, which we, as well as the regional commanders, put in place to curb that business of robbery. So we are not recording as many robberies that it used to be in the past. That is what I talk about, crime which has been gone down.
Director in charge of the Northern Patrols Department, DCOP Akureba Ayayi, called on the police to work hard to raise the public perception that the police could not be trusted with protecting the identities of informants. The Deputy Northern Regional Police Commander, ASP Akrofi Albert Johnson, said not only have violent crimes reduced, rape and defilement cases have also dropped. and commended the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit for their efforts.
Those crimes that were either through a high incidency at the various remote communities. Our domestic violence unit is doing a yeoman's job on that. They go on outreach programs, which of course it is in collaboration with the Regional Coordination Council and the support from UNFPA. And such sensitization programs have chalked surface, and we are seeing that those crimes concerning defilement and rape have reduced.
The Forestry Commission has introduced a new technology to aid in the preservation of forests. The satellite Earth observation technology, they say, will equip the Commission with the capacity to measure forest change and also provide information on the risks and solutions of deforestation, degradation, and other illegal activities affecting forests. The 20-year development master plan developed by the Commission in 2016, which was to aid in reduction of greenhouse effects deforestation, among others, was unsuccessful due to some challenges faced. Here's Deputy Chief Executive John Alote.
Ghana is to demonstrate her ability to cut down greenhouse gas emissions and claim carbon credits. This requires accurate, transparent, and timely reporting on the state of the forest resources of Ghana. The monitoring, reporting, and verification protocols have been developed by the REDD+ Secretariat to deal with this. However, these MRV's processes are faced with some challenges which need to be addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, Forest 2020 has been designed to address these technical barriers in low and middle income countries to sustain implementation of efficient forest monitoring systems. We are told that the project will equip us to measure forest change and provide information on the risk and drivers of forest loss.
The Forest 2020 project, funded by the UK Space Agency, could be extended to 2022 if the pilot is successful. The technology, according to project coordinator Dr. Ernest Foley, will help in early detection of whatever happens to the forest, whether positive or negative.
We are now developing better methods for estimating what is in the forest in terms of carbon, and to detect what change is going on. For example, galamsey is going on somewhere. Unless you go to the ground, you will not know that someone is hiding in the forest carrying out galamsey. But if you use satellite images, that one can see at least what is going on, detect the vegetation, and see that part of the vegetation is bare. Then you will probably want to see what is going on there. Is it galamsey? Is it farming? If it's farming, is it cocoa? Is it rubber? Is it cashew? So these are the tools that we want to develop so that we can, estimate better, like where the degradation is going on, what is the area? Is it 10 hectares or 100 hectares? And how many hectares is lost every year? That's how we can determine the deforestation rate and say that now we are going to have certain interventions like tree planting. We will plant maybe 100,000 hectares a year so that we can now begin to get trees that will sequester the carbon. So basically that is the idea.
The General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union, or the Trade Union Congress, is asking its members at the Metro Mass Transit Company in Kumasi to withdraw services for security reasons. The directive follows the invasion of the Abreport Junction depot by some supporters of the New Patriotic Party over the appointment of the regional depot manager. Supporters of Deputy Ashanti Regional Organizer of the NPP, Ejenim Boateng, besieged the premises of the MMT Thursday morning in protest over the withdrawal of Mr. Boateng's appointment. Prince Apia has more in this report.
So earlier this morning, some supporters of the New Patriotic Party besieged the premises of the Metro Mass Transport Terminal to prevent the appointed regional manager from working. Now, two people are involved. Earlier, the acting NPP regional organizer Daniel Adjenim Boateng was appointed, then revoked, and another member of the NPP, Nicholas Odro, was also appointed. Now, the members of the New Patriotic Party, especially supporters of Daniel Adjenim Boateng, are not happy about that.
So, for all of a sudden, we don't know what happened. We had another letter that we are appointed Nicholas. So it's a sad news for all the organizers in the Ashanti region.
Why would you describe it as sad news? They are all members of the same New Patriotic Party.
Adjenim is a hard-working organizer, and then the leader of all the organizers, the 47 organizers in the Ashanti region. So we are all backing him as an organizer. So we don't know how Nicholas come from, and then they giving the nod to him.
Don't you think this is bringing some division among the...
Never. Nicholas knew that he is his boss. Daniel is ahead of Nicholas. So Nicholas should be calm down. And then, Accra said, Nicholas should break and then give chance to Daniel to go. That's all.
Do you think this is the right way of addressing the issue? Why?
We are already writing a letter to the opinion leaders and then Amakutu for himself. So we don't know what things is going on.
You decided to picket the Metro Mass service this morning. Why did you do that? That was an illegality.
It's not illegality, but if somebody make rough against you, you have to, as I say,
Now, you have heard the South Korean group Gracias Choir sing in Twi as if they own the language. Have you ever wondered how they were able to sing Ghanaian songs so beautifully? Joining us is Maxwell Agbagba, caught up with the only Ghanaian in the group, Douglas Yeboah. Born in Tema Community 1, Douglas, it turns out, is the one who holds the key to the group's Ghanaian identity.
Acquiring a new language can be very challenging, especially when one does not learn to speak it in their formative years. However, the Gracias Choir from South Korea is an exception to the rule. Their ability to flawlessly sing in different languages across the world has endeared them to the hearts of many. Here at the 2016 International World Youth Camp, they sang an impeccable rendition of Machen Irade. I have come to the athletics oval at the University of Ghana to meet Douglas Yeboah at one of their dress rehearsals here in Ghana. Douglas is the only Ghanaian who is part of the Gracias Choir. He was born in Tema Community 1. The bespectacled 30-year-old tells me how he joined the group.
Okay, there's a same program here. There's IY. There was like hosting in Korea, and but before then I was in the church. So we have like a group called Black Pearl. So we was invited to the choir in South Korea, and we performed, and they listened to my voice. And said, "Oh, you have a good voice. Why don't you join us?" So we called some of the members in Tema here, and we asked them about the song. The big famous song is in Ghana now. That is going on. So if they give the song, then I have to write it, and I mean. The meanings and everything, then I show to them, then we arrange it, then we combine our voices together, then we do. Really, at the beginning, it was really difficult. You know, our Twi language is not all that, like I said, that it's not that famous in the world, actually. And it's really difficult, actually.
You have heard South Koreans sing in Twi, but what does it sound like to have a Ghanaian sing in Korean? Douglas, who has lived in South Korea for a decade, sings to me one of his favorite songs. That is 31-year-old Mexican Julio Gonzalez singing his version of the Chi song to the applause of many. Julio has traveled around the world with the group since 2007. The man from Mexico City has been recounting to me his journey with the Gracias Choir.
Your language is one of the most difficult in African languages, you know, but luckily we have a friend from Ghana. His name is Douglas, and then he teaches us all the songs and the pronunciation, the rhythm, everything.
Ongoing now is a dress rehearsal for Christmas cantata by the Gracias Choir. Julio Gonzalez is also playing a role in this. But one of the most fascinating scenes is when they come out later, all of them singing in Chi. Yes, you heard me right, in Chi. But Julio Gonzalez tells me it's one of the most difficult things to do.
My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.